I like to walk at night, but that night, someone smiled at me from afar. Not a friendly smile, not a normal smile, but a smile. Like the mouth was open all the way to the cheeks. And when I turned around, he started following. I have a strange habit that not many people know about. Every night, right after midnight, I step out of my small apartment and take a walk around the block. I don't have a special reason. I'm not an athlete. I'm not someone trying to live healthy. I just feel calm when the night comes. When the city falls silent. When the streetlights are more honest than human eyes. That night was like any other. The streets were quiet. No cars, no footsteps. A cold wind blew gently, carrying the scent of damp asphalt and fallen leaves. I wore a thin hoodie and stuffed my hands into the pockets. My eyes focused only ahead on the dark sidewalk and the slope leading to the small park at the end of the block. That's when I first saw him. He was standing under a street lamp that was half broken. The light flickered slowly, as if running out of breath. The man was tall, taller than normal. His body was thin, almost like a tree trunk, and he stood perfectly still. He wore a black suit. No umbrella, no bag, just him and that smile. A smile that never faded. His mouth was open wide. Too wide, as if his cheeks were being pulled apart. I thought he was just some prankster. Maybe a YouTuber or a weirdo filming a late-night stunt. But the street was far too empty for jokes. I slowed my steps. Not because I was scared, but because my mind couldn't yet understand what I was seeing. He didn't move. I walked slowly, keeping to the other side of the street. He didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't even react to my presence. But that smile, it looked planted on his face. His eyes had no emotion, just a vacant stare that felt far too aware. Picked up my pace. When I turned down the narrow alley behind the old bakery, I heard something. A step. But they didn't sound right. Not like walking, more like dancing. The rhythm was off. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. But always coming closer. I stopped and looked back. Nothing. The alley was empty. Silent. I swallowed and kept walking faster now. At the corner, I glanced over my shoulder. Still empty. But that feeling wouldn't leave. Like someone was watching from behind a dark window. Or from the shadow of a street lamp. When I reached my apartment door, I turned one last time toward the end of the street. The flickering street lamp was still on. But the man was gone. Vanished. I went inside, locked the door, and tried to sleep. But that night, my eyes wouldn't close for even a second. The next night I did the same thing. This habit had become a part of me. Even after what happened the night before, I still went out. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that it was all just in my head. That the man was just a dream bleeding into my reality because of sleep deprivation. That night, the sky looked darker than usual. The clouds hung low, and the air carried a faint metallic scent that I couldn't explain. I walked down the stairs and made my way around the first block. The streets were empty, just like before. But something didn't feel right. As I turned toward the small park I had passed the previous night, I stopped. He was there again. A man. Still standing under the same flickering street lamp. Still wearing the black suit. Still with that same smile. But something had changed. He wasn't still like the night before. His body leaned slightly forward, as if watching more closely. His head was tilted just a little to the left, and one of his arms had begun to rise, slowly, as if he were waving, or copying me. I couldn't move. My legs refused to obey. My eyes locked onto him, and time itself seemed to slow down. The man took a step forward. But it wasn't a normal step. He moved with a strange rhythm. Stiff, unbalanced, like he was dancing to a song no one else could hear. His legs swung too wide. His arms floated awkwardly. Every motion made my skin crawl. I didn't know if it was some kind of neurological disorder. Or something far worse. I tried to turn away. But the moment I moved, he stopped. I looked back. He stood motionless again. I took a different route, back through the alley behind the old bakery. My breath became uneven. I felt foolish for being afraid. But the fear was real. Something was wrong with that man, and my body knew it before my brain could catch up. As I passed through the narrow alley, I looked into the dusty glass window of a long-closed store. His reflection was there, but when I turned around directly, no one was there. The alley was empty, completely silent, yet the reflection remained. He stood several feet behind me in the glass but not in the real world. And as I stared, the figure slowly lifted one arm. Those long fingers moved, waving a soft, deliberate motion. Not at the man in the reflection, but at me. Ran. My heart was pounding like a hammer. I crossed street after street, desperate to get home. And when I finally reached my apartment, I fumbled with the keys, hands shaking. The moment the door opened, I slammed it shut behind me, locking every bolt. 1, 2, 3. I stood in the living room, chest rising and falling, ears ringing, thoughts spinning. But one thing stayed clear in my mind. He knew I saw him. I didn't go out that night. Not the night after either. Even just standing near the window made my skin crawl. Felt like he was out there, waiting, or worse, looking for a way in. But life had to go on. I still had to work, still had to buy food, still had to pretend everything was normal. In the daylight, things felt safe. The streets were full. The sun made everything look honest. But the night had changed. 3 days later, when I felt brave enough, or maybe stupid enough, I went out again. This time earlier, around 10. I thought if I went before midnight, maybe I wouldn't see him. I walked slowly. My heart was already racing. I kept glancing left and right, constantly checking behind me. The streets looked empty, even quieter than usual. I decided to walk farther than I normally do. Past the bakery, past the park, into parts of the neighborhood I didn't usually visit. Street lights were more scattered here, some dim, some completely out. And for a moment I felt okay. He wasn't there. Maybe he gave up. Maybe I really was just imagining things. I started to relax a little. Then I heard it. A step, but not normal ones. Not like walking. There was a scrape, then a tap, then a strange dragging sound. Then a soft shuffle, like someone dancing but wrong. I walked faster. The footsteps picked up too. Stop. The sound stopped. I turned around. No one. The noise had come from the alley across the street. Narrow, dark, impossible to see into. But the sound had definitely come from there. Then it went quiet, except for one thing. Breathing. Low. Like something big. Savoring the same night air as me. I didn't wait. Ran. And the more I ran, the more I could hear the footsteps behind me. Not fast, but steady. Like he knew I'd run out of breath before he did. I reached my apartment. My hands shook as I searched for the key. When I got the door open, I burst in and slammed it shut behind me. Locked all the locks. 3 of them. 2 chains. 1 deadbolt I had just installed. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. A knock. Once. Then twice. Not at the door. The window. My apartment is on the 2nd floor. No balcony. No fire escape. But the sound was real. 3 soft taps on the kitchen window. Then came the scrape. Like fingernails dragging lightly across the glass. I didn't open the curtain. I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, staring at the door and the window, trading my gaze back and forth until the sun came up. And when I finally pulled the curtain back in the morning, no one. But on the window glass, there was a mark, handprint, 5 long fingers, and just above them, a smile, drawn in the morning fog. I didn't go out for a week. I worked from home, ordered everything online, refused every invitation. Even standing near the window was enough to make my skin crawl. It felt like he was still out there, watching, waiting. But eventually I forced myself to leave. During the day, the sun was bright. People were everywhere. Everything looked normal. Even the sound of footsteps on the sidewalk felt comforting. I walked through my usual route, past the small park, past the bakery, until I reached an old clothing store that had been closed for years. Its dusty glass storefront still faced the street. That's where I stopped. Not because I wanted to look at the clothes behind the dusty glass, but because the reflection I saw didn't match reality. In the glass, I saw myself standing there, but several feet behind me was the figure. Dark, head tilted to the left, and that same impossible smile. I turned around quickly. Nothing. The street behind me was clear. Me. I looked back at the glass. He was still there. One step closer. My breath caught in my throat. My eyes narrowed, as if they could erase what I was seeing. But the reflection didn't lie. He was right behind me in that world. And as if responding, the figure in the glass slowly raised one hand. Long bony fingers waved gently, not at the reflection, but at me. Ran. My heart pounded in my ears. I ran through alleys and streets, trying to put as much distance as I could between myself and that glass. But every window I passed showed the same thing. He was still there, sometimes at the edge, sometimes right in the center. Always smiling, always closer. I ducked behind parked cars, hoping the shadows would hide me. But then I looked into a side mirror, and I saw him again. This time, he wasn't standing. He was crawling, not like a person, but like something folded. Head upright, smile fixed, arms moving fast like a spider, body twitching unnaturally. I turned away, closed my eyes. I didn't want to see it anymore, but I could still hear the sound. Not footsteps, not breathing, something else. And when I finally opened my eyes, the reflection was gone. But I didn't feel safe, 'cause behind me, heard breathing, long. Then the sound of teeth, as if someone was holding back a laugh. I don't remember how I got home that night. My feet must have moved on their own. When I finally came to my senses, I was standing in the hallway of my apartment, gripping the doorknob with trembling hands. I opened it, rushed inside, and locked it as fast as I could. 3 locks, 2 chains, 1 deadbolt I had installed just yesterday. Inside, I turned on every light, even the ones in the bathroom and the closet. I turned on the TV, not to watch anything, just so there would be sound. Any sound that wasn't my own heartbeat. I sat on the sofa, facing the door, waiting. The first few minutes, nothing happened, but I didn't dare blink. Then I heard it. A step. In the hallway outside. Steady. Too rhythmic. Like someone wasn't walking. They were counting. 1, 2, 3. Then silence. I stood up slowly. I crept toward the door and pressed my ear against it. The hallway was quiet. Then a knock. 3 times. Until. Clear. Not on the door. On the window. The kitchen window. My apartment is on the 2nd floor. There's no balcony. No fire escape. But the sound was real. 3 soft taps against the glass, followed by a faint scraping sound, like fingernails dragging slowly across it. I didn't open the curtain. I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, watching the door, then the window, then the door again, until the morning light finally crept into the room. And when I pulled back the curtain, no one. But on the glass, there was a mark. Smile. Drawn in the condensation, as if someone had pressed their face to it, and watched me all night. I don't know how long I sat on the floor, my back against the wall, eyes locked on the darkness under the door. That smile wasn't there anymore, but the memory of it remained, etched into my thoughts, clinging to me, refusing to leave. I didn't dare leave my room, not for water, not to check anything. I just sat there until morning light began to slip through the cracks of the window. When the light touched the floor, I finally stood up. My legs were stiff, my neck sore. I walked slowly to the door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. I opened it a little. The hallway was empty. The living room looked normal. Nothing was out of place. But the silence wasn't right. I walked to the living room. The front door was still locked. Curtains still drawn. I turned on my phone. The screen lit up. No new messages. No notifications. But one thing made my breath catch. The gallery. There was a new photo. Just one. Opened it. It was me, sleeping on the couch. But I hadn't slept last night. And behind me, in the shadows, stood the tall, dark figure, smiling. That same horrible smile, stretched from cheek to cheek. I dropped the phone. And at that moment, all the lights in the apartment went out. Darkness. Click from the front door. Like it had been locked from the outside. I ran to it. Tried opening it. Twisting the handle. Pulling. But it wouldn't move. Not by me. I turned around searching for a window. But they were all shut tight. Nailed from the outside. No way out. Then I heard it again. The breathing. Heavy. Low. Coming from the hallway to the kitchen. I backed into a corner of the room, grabbing the nearest chair, anything I could use. The footsteps came closer. I looked toward the hallway. Dark. But then, 2 white points appeared in the black, followed by a wide, glowing curve. The smile again. He was standing there, half his body hidden in shadow, but his face, fully visible. He didn't speak this time. He just smiled, stepped forward, 1 step closer, and then, the lights came on. The apartment lit up completely, but the hallway was empty. No one there. I slowly walked forward, heart still pounding in my throat. As I stepped into the hallway, my foot touched something on the floor. An envelope. No name. I picked it up with shaking fingers. Inside there was only one thing. Photo. My face. Close. Very close. And behind me. Smile. I don't remember falling asleep. But I must have. Because when I opened my eyes, it was night again. I was still sitting in the corner of the room. Still holding the photo. Still hearing that voice in my head. The lights were still on. Nothing had moved. But everything felt wrong. I stood up slow and careful. My knees cracked. My back ached. I walked toward the front door. Still locked. All 3 locks. Still in place. But it felt like they weren't protecting me anymore. They were trapping me. I went to the window. Pulled back the curtain. And there he was. Not outside. In the reflection. Behind me. Closer than ever. That same smile. Wider now. So wide it split the face in 2. I turned instantly, but there was no one there. I was alone. But I wasn't. I could feel it. Something had changed. Picked up my phone. My hands were shaking. I tried to call someone, anyone, but the screen stayed blank. No signal. No apps. Just one image. Photo. My face. Eyes half closed. Sleeping on the couch. And behind me the shadow. The smile. I turned off the phone. I didn't want to see it again. But then, the lights flickered. Once. Then out. Total darkness. And that's when I heard it. The sound of a breath. Very close. Right next to my ear. And then, laughter. Not loud. Not human. A slow, clicking noise, like teeth grinding together while trying not to laugh. I tried to scream. But my voice didn't come out. My body didn't move. Then I felt fingers. On my shoulder. Long. Cold. And then silence.